The golden halls of Velthor Prime shimmered under three suns, their crystal walls humming with the soft tone of Alari music. The palace floated above a calm sea, suspended by anti-gravity pillars forged centuries ago. All of Velthor's noble houses had gathered for a ceremony of great importance. The marriage of Princess Illyra Velshare to a human. Illyra stood tall and proud in her flowing silver robes, her violet eyes half-lidded with boredom. She was graceful, intelligent, and trained in diplomacy since childhood. Her people, the Alari, were a race of advanced telepaths, elegant in speech and proud in nature. To them, humans were loud, clumsy, and primitive. She sighed. The marriage was a political alliance, nothing more. Earth had recently uncovered ancient star maps, maps that the Alari desperately needed. In return, they offered peace and status. Marrying a human representative was the symbolic key. Her husband Tubi arrived by shuttle from Earth only hours earlier. She hadn't even met him properly yet. When she heard he was just a mechanic, she nearly laughed. A common man from a blue world with barely a few centuries in space? How quaint. And then the palace doors opened. Jason Brandt entered slowly. He wore no ceremonial armor, no robes, no visible weapons, just a plain black tunic and pants. His boots looked worn, his hands calloused. His face was quiet, not afraid, just calm. He gave a polite bow, not too deep, not too proud. Princess Illyra raised an eyebrow. "You are Jason Brandt."
"Yes, ma'am,"
he replied, voice smooth but soft. "From Earth, pleased to meet you, Princess." She almost smirked. He didn't try to impress her, didn't grovel, didn't stare. He just stood there. The High Minister gave the usual speeches. Vows were spoken, hands were joined. A ring of crystal thread was tied around their wrists, bonding them under Alari law. The nobles applauded with the softness of wind through trees. Jason smiled. But it was a small, tired smile, the kind a man wears when he's lived through storms. That night, in their private quarters, Illyra remained quiet. Jason looked around. The large chamber with mild interest, but didn't touch anything. Instead, he walked to one corner of the room, where a small case had been placed among his few belongings. He opened it gently. Inside was a sword, not a laser blade, not an Alari energy staff. This was old, a physical object with weight, a curved steel blade, polished but weathered, with strange Terran markings etched near the hilt. The handle was wrapped in worn leather. Illyra's brow furrowed. Is that decoration? Or do all Earth mechanics carry ancient toys? Jason chuckled quietly. No, this one's special. She watched as he placed it on the wall, mounted between two glass light panels. You don't need that here, she said. We have guards, drones, shields. Jason nodded. I know. She folded her arms. So why bring it? He paused before answering. Because some parts of who we are, we don't leave behind. For a second, his eyes looked distant, not sad, but like someone remembering a storm he once walked through. Illyra said nothing. She turned away and settled into her side of the chamber, expecting little from this so-called husband. She would handle him like a polite arrangement, distant and formal. He would likely stay out of her way. But before she fell asleep, she turned her head one last time to look at him. Jason was sitting near the window, quietly staring at the stars. He wasn't what she expected. Not loud, not dumb, not weak. Still, a simple man, human without power. At least that's what she believed. For now, the grand hall of Velthor Prime was glowing with light and music. Long crystal columns rose to the sky, and silver flags of the royal family waved gently in the air. Nobles from all over the galaxy had gathered. Today was Princess Illyra's official coronation as the future ruler of Velthar. Jason Brandt stood silently beside her. He wore a clean black suit, the same calm look on his face. He didn't smile much, and he didn't try to speak to the alien nobles. They still whispered behind. His back, is that really the human consort? He looks like a farm worker. Why did they let her marry a Terran? No class, no power. Jason heard it all, but said nothing. Elira, dressed in a royal blue robe with golden crystals, stood tall and proud. She was used to attention, but now something was different. Her eyes kept going to Jason. He hadn't done anything special. He hadn't said anything bold. But the way he watched the crowd, the way his body stayed alert, even during boring speeches, it made her curious. Suddenly, the music stopped. The lights flickered. Everyone froze, then, without warning, the palace. Shields crashed. A loud boom shook the hall. The sky above turned red. Through the open roof, small dark ships flew in like bats. The guards pulled weapons. They were too late. Explosions, smoke, screams. A group of black-armored mercenaries dropped into the hall from above. Their leader, a tall alien with glowing red eyes, shouted in a strange language. They fired stun blasts into the crowd. Nobles fell. Drones were disabled. Guards were thrown across the floor. "Protect the princess," Juan shouted. But the attackers were fast and brutal. They had planned everything. Elira tried to move, but a large drone flew at her with a glowing energy spear. Her guards were already down. She turned, thinking it might be her last moment. Then she saw Jason move, fast. He didn't shout. He didn't hide. He calmly stepped between Elira and the drone, and then, for the first time, she saw him reach for his sword. The same old steel weapon he had hung on the wall, the same one she had laughed at. Jason drew it from beneath his coat with a smooth motion. The blade caught the light sharp, polished, humming softly with a blue glow she hadn't noticed before. The drone struck first. A fast jab meant to kill. Jason ducked low and slashed upward. The drone split in half with a loud crack. The pieces fell to the floor, sparking. Silence fell over that corner of the hall. The other mercenaries turned toward the noise. They saw a human man holding a blade, standing in front of the princess. Eyes cold and focused. Jason didn't wait. He moved like a shadow through the attackers. One by one, they came at him, and one by one, they fell. He didn't use guns. He didn't need them. His blade moved faster than any laser, cutting through armor, weapons, and fear. His footwork was perfect. Strikes were clean, not wild, not angry, just precise. The nobles who had once mocked him were now hiding behind pillars, staring. Who was this man? Elira couldn't speak. She had never seen someone fight like that, not even Alari warriors. After minutes of chaos, the last mercenary ran. He wiped his blade on his coat, then slid it back into the sheath. Smoke floated in the air. Bodies lay still. And Jason turned to Elira and said, "Are you hurt?" She shook her head slowly. "No, I'm fine." "Good," he said simply. Palace. Guards arrived late, rushing into the hall. Looked at Jason, at the destroyed attackers, and didn't know what to say. A general stepped forward. "Who are you?" Jason answered. "Just a mechanic. From Earth." But nobody believed that now. Later, in the private medical wing, Elira sat on a soft white bed. Her hands were still shaking slightly. Jason stood nearby, quiet again. She finally spoke. "That sword. It's not just decoration." "No," Jason said. "You were trained?" "Yes, by who?" He looked at her. "Earth isn't as simple as you think. Not all of us are farmers or workers. Some of us, have history, military." He nodded once. "But you told me you left that life." "I did." "Then why bring the sword?" Jason looked. "Out the window, because peace doesn't always last." She stood slowly and walked to him. For the first time, she saw him not as a simple man, but someone dangerous. Someone who had seen war. Someone who had survived it. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" she asked. "You married a man, not a soldier. I wanted to leave that behind." "Now," he gave a sad smile. "Now I think it has followed me here." They stood in silence. Outside, royal ships chased the enemy raiders across the stars. Inside, the princess realized something important. She hadn't married a simple man. She had married a storm in silence. The royal palace had been repaired. but the fear from the attack still remained. Broken walls had been fixed, lights had been restored, but the people whispered in every hallway. Not about the mercenaries, not about the princess, but about Jason Brant, the human consort who fought like a ghost from the old wars. Some nobles called him lucky. Others said he was hiding something. Many were now afraid of him. Jason, as always, stayed quiet. He didn't try to explain himself. He didn't walk with pride. He just followed Illyra during public meetings and returned to their quarters every night, polishing his blade in silence. But Princess Illyra couldn't stay silent anymore. One evening, she'd called him to the royal observatory. High above the palace towers, stars shone brightly above them. She wore a plain robe, no crown, no guards. "Jason," she said, "I need to know the truth now. Who are you really?" He didn't answer immediately. Then he took a deep breath and sat across from her. "My name is Jason Brant. That much is true. But back on Earth, before I was chosen for this marriage, I was part of something called the Terran Blade Corps." "Blade Corps?" she repeated. He nodded. "A secret combat unit, very old. We trained in both ancient and modern fighting. Swords, plasma, stealth, old tactics.
Oh.
We were used only when peace failed. And that sword?" Jason looked at it. It was resting beside him, still glowing faintly blue along the edge. "It's called Vigil," he said. "It's passed down for hundreds of years. It's made of Terran alloy and fused with smart matter. Learns the style of its user, can adjust its weight, speed, and even sharpen itself. But more than that, it remembers." Illyra looked confused. "It remembers?" "Yes," he said. "Every time it's used, it stores small traces of energy and motion. It's more than a weapon. It's a silent observer." She was quiet for a moment, trying to understand. "But why would a man like you marry into a royal house? Why hide this? Part of yourself?" Jason looked out the glass dome at the stars. "Because I got tired of war," he said. "Tired of orders. Tired of seeing things burn. When Earth agreed to the marriage, I saw a way out. I thought maybe I could start over. Here, as a man, not a sword." Illyra slowly nodded. There was no lie in his voice. "But peace didn't last," she whispered. Jason turned his head to her. "No. And now it's clear someone doesn't want this alliance to survive." She stood up. The attack wasn't random. They knew exactly when to strike. "During my coronation, they wanted me dead," Jason agreed, "and they underestimated me." Lyra looked at him carefully. "So what do we do now?" Jason stood up and picked up Vigil. "We find out who sent them." Later that night, Jason and Illyra entered the Royal Archive, a giant chamber of knowledge buried beneath the palace. Crystal books and floating data stones lit the dark room. Jason connected Vigil to a scanning terminal. Swords glow. Passed into the machine. Images from the attack replayed in the air. Faces, ships, markings. One symbol appeared again and again. A black circle with 3 red lines across it. Illyra narrowed her eyes. "That belongs to the Voidborn Syndicate." Jason had heard the name. A criminal group that traded weapons and secrets. No empire could touch them. They were ghosts in space. "Who leads them?" Jason asked. Ilwyara replied, "No one knows. They operate through layers of lies. But if they've joined hands with exiled nobles, this is more than crime. This is rebellion." Jason nodded. "And it's time I stop hiding." In the following days, Jason trained with the palace guards, not with plasma rifles. With swords, at first the guards laughed. Old metal blades against modern tech? When Jason fought them, they quickly understood. He moved like wind, blocked blaster fire with perfect timing, and disarmed even the strongest warriors in seconds. Even Illyra joined one session, curious to feel the movement of blade combat. Jason handed her a practice sword and showed her basic moves. "Stay low. Use your legs. Let the blade speak," he instructed. Their hands met. Her balance slipped once, and he caught her gently. They both paused. In that moment, something shifted between them. Not duty, not formality, something real. Soon after, They received a report. A hidden outpost on a nearby moon had been marked. With the Voidborn symbol, strange shipments were moving in and out. Jason stood, sword on his back. "Let's visit," he said. Illwire smiled. Together. And so, the princess and the man she once called Simple boarded a silent royal ship and flew into the shadows, chasing the first trail of the enemy that had dared to attack them. But now, they were hunting with the sword of old Terra, and this time, the galaxy would remember the name Jason Brandt. The ship moved quietly through space, its black surface blending with the darkness around it. Jason and Princess Illyra sat side by side in the small royal scout vessel. They were heading toward a forgotten moon called Veltrix 9, located in a shadowed sector known for pirate activity and lost colonies. Illyra looked out the window at the stars. "We shouldn't be doing this without backup." Jason checked his sword, now locked in a special case near his seat. "If we wait for backup, the enemy will be gone. This place is too quiet. Something is hiding there." Lyra sighed, but didn't argue. She had learned one thing about Jason: he never acted without a reason. His instincts were sharp. The ship landed in a rocky valley. Thick fog covered the ground, and only one old tower was visible, metal, rusted, and half buried in dust. Jason stepped out first, scanning the area. He held a simple scanner in one hand, sword strapped to his back. Illyra followed, wearing a dark cloak over her royal suit. "Stay close," Jason said. "If anything feels wrong, say it."
Ow.
The tower door opened with a creak.
Ow.
Inside, the air smelled of old fuel and metal. The lights were weak. They moved down a narrow tunnel until they found signs of life: crates with weapons, food, and strange black devices with red symbols. "This is Voidborn tech," Illyra whispered. Jason nodded. "Look at this." He held up a small disc. "A communicator. Let's see what they're saying." He pressed a button. A recorded voice played. "The Allari princess won't live to see her crown. The human is unknown. Remove him if needed. The attack failed, but the plan continues. Move to phase 2. Illyra's face turned cold. "They really want me dead." Jason's voice was steady. "And they don't even know who they're really dealing with?" They moved deeper into the base and entered a large control room. On the far wall was a glowing screen showing maps of Allari space, attack routes, and spy points. Several alien mercenaries were working at the stations, unaware that 2 intruders had entered. Jason held up a hand, signaling Illyra to stop. He stepped forward quietly, his sword now in his hand. One guard turned too late. Jason moved like a shadow. Slicing through the first 2 without a sound, Illyra moved quickly behind a pillar and used a stun rod to take down a third. The others finally noticed. Intruders. An alarm rang. Blasters fired. Jason rolled behind a desk, deflecting energy shots with his blade. Illyra tossed him a flash charge. He caught it, pressed the trigger, and threw it. Boom. The room filled. With white light, the enemy screamed. When the flash faded, only Jason and Illyra were standing. The rest lay on the ground. Unconscious or too wounded to fight, Jason wiped his blade clean. "Still fast." Illyra looked at him, breathing hard. He didn't even break a sweat. He smiled. "You're improving too." Suddenly, a hidden door in the floor opened. A figure rose up wearing royal Allari armor. Jason pointed his blade ready, but Illyra stepped forward. "I know that man," she said. "That's Lord Kareth, my father's former advisor. He vanished 3 years ago." Lord Kareth smiled darkly. "You shouldn't have come here, princess. You betrayed." "The crown," she said. He laughed. "The crown betrayed us. You let a human sit beside you. The Allari bloodline is pure, or it was. You're ruining everything." Jason stepped closer. "You're working with the Voidborn." "Why?" "To take back what's ours," Kareth said. "And if we must burn the galaxy to do it, so be it." Lyra spoke coldly. "Then you are no longer Allari." Jason raised his sword. Kareth pressed a button and disappeared through a hidden tunnel. Jason tried to follow, but the door slammed shut. The whole base began shaking. "Self-destruct," he said. They ran back through the tunnels. Floor cracked. Fire burst from pipes. They reached the ship just in time. As they took off, the moon base exploded behind them, sending fire into space. Jason flew in silence. Illyra sat beside him, her fists clenched. One of our own, a traitor. They're deeper inside than we thought. Jason looked ahead. We need to go higher. She turned to him. What do you mean? We need to go to the council. Show them what we found. Expose the Voidborn before it's too late. She hesitated. They won't listen. They fear you. They think you're too dangerous. Jason looked at her and knew. Answer for a long time, then she said, I think you're exactly what this empire needs. For the first time, Jason smiled fully. He looked back at the stars. They were no longer soft and peaceful. Now they were sharp, filled with enemies. In secrets, but this time, Jason wasn't running. He was ready to fight. The halls of Velthar's royal palace buzzed with tension. News of the failed attack and the traitor Lord Kareth had spread quickly. The nobles whispered behind closed doors. Some feared the rising human consort. Others saw hope. Princess Illyra stood beside Jason Brandt in the war room. Maps of the galaxy floated before them, showing star systems, fleet positions, and enemy movements. Jason's face was calm but focused. The Voidborn Syndicate is stronger than we thought. Their ships have grown in number, and they are attacking. Supply routes. Illyra nodded. Our current forces can't stop them. The Council refuses to send more ships without proof. Jason looked at her. Then we give them proof. He turned to the generals. Illa, I want to train the Royal Guard. Not just in swordplay and real combat, Terran tactics. If the Council won't act, we will prepare ourselves. The generals exchanged looks. Some smiled at the idea. Others scowled. Illyra raised her hand. I support him. Jason began the training immediately. At the palace grounds became a battlefield. Of clashing steel and shouted commands, the Royal Guard learned to move differently. To think like soldiers, not just nobles. They practiced fighting in teams, using cover, learning to trust each other. Jason showed them how to use the ancient sword in combination with energy shields. He taught hand-to-hand combat and how to listen to their instincts. Illyra joined. Some sessions, wearing lighter armor and training with wooden swords. She wasn't a warrior, but she wanted to understand. One afternoon, Jason approached her after a practice fight. You're getting stronger. She smiled, wiping sweat from her brow. Only because I have a good teacher. He bowed slightly. Your move next time. Meanwhile, the Voidborn Syndicate prepared their next strike. Their leader, hidden in the shadows, watched the reports carefully. They train fast, he said. The Terran consort is more dangerous than we believed. The leader's eyes narrowed. We must act quickly. Remove the consort and the princess. The galaxy will be ours. Days later, the palace was attacked again. This time, it was different. The Voidborn ships appeared in the sky, blocking the sunlight. Their fighters swarmed the palace defenses, but the Royal Guard was ready. Jason led the charge on the ground. His sword gleamed as he cut through enemy soldiers. The guards moved like a single blade, powerful and precise. Illyra fought beside him, using the skills Jason had taught her. She was not a soldier, but she was brave. The battle was fierce. Explosions shook the halls. Energy beams tore through the air. Yet Jason and the Royal Guard held their ground. At one moment, Jason saw the enemy leader approaching in a hovercraft. The man was armed with advanced weapons. Jason moved fast. With a sudden leap, he closed the distance and used Vigil, his sword, to break the enemy's shield. The leader fell, defeated. The Voidborn forces retreated, leaving the palace in flames but still standing. After the battle, the council gathered. The nobles looked at Jason differently now. The human who once seemed weak had become a true warrior and leader. Illyra stood proudly beside him. The High Minister spoke. Jason Brandt has shown us the strength of humanity. The Terran consort has saved Velthar, not once, but twice. We must unite to defeat the Syndicate. Jason nodded. Together, we are stronger. That night, in the quiet palace garden, Illyra and Jason stood beneath the stars. You've changed everything, she said softly. Jason smiled. No, you changed me. She looked at the sword resting on his belt. Will you always carry vigil? Always, he said. It's not just a weapon, it's a reminder of who I was and who I want to be. Illyra took his hand. Then let's face the future together. Jason squeezed her hand gently. The stars shone brighter above them, promising new battles and new victories. The war with the Voidborn Syndicate had shaken the galaxy. But after every storm, there was calm. The royal palace of Velthor stood tall once more, shining under the light of the three suns. Its walls told stories of battle and courage of a human who changed everything. Jason Brant stood on the balcony, watching the crowd gather below. Today was a day of celebration, the day the council would officially recognize him not just as a consort, but as a true leader of Velthor. Princess Illyra stood beside him, her violet eyes shining with pride. The marriage that started as a political duty had become something real. A partnership built on trust, respect, and shared battles. The crowd cheered as Jason was called forward. The High Minister spoke loudly. For bravery, wisdom, and loyalty. To Velthor we honor Jason Brant, Terran warrior and protector of our people. Jason bowed deeply, feeling the weight of the moment. The sword vigil hung at his side, not just a weapon, but a symbol of hope and strength. But not everyone in the crowd was happy. Some nobles still whispered, afraid of the human who had taken so much power. Jason knew the peace was fragile. Later, in the quiet halls, Illyra and Jason spoke alone. Do you ever miss Earth? She asked. Jason looked at the glowing stars outside the window. Sometimes, but here I've found a new home. Illyra smiled. And a new family. Jason took her hand. You've taught me that strength isn't just in a sword, it's in trust, in unity. Their eyes met. Suddenly alarms sounded. An urgent message came from the fleet. The Voidborn Syndicate had returned. Their ships were approaching the Velthar system in full force. Jason tightened his grip on Vigil. It's not over. Illyra nodded. Then we fight, together. The palace prepared for war. The royal guard stood ready, now stronger and united. Jason led the fleet, his command clear and steady. The battle was fierce. Voidborn ships fired plasma blasts, trying to break the defenses. But Jason's tactics were smart and bold. He ordered quick strikes, flanking moves, and coordinated attacks that surprised the enemy. In the middle of the battle, Jason's ship was hit. His weapons were damaged. An alarm screamed, but he didn't panic. He reached for Vigil, now modified with energy enhancements. The sword glowed bright blue as he prepared for a final move. With skill and courage, Jason cut through the enemy shields. His crew followed his lead, pushing the Voidborn back. The enemy flagship exploded in a brilliant fireball. The battle was won. Back on Velthar, people cheered. Jason returned to hero. The council finally agreed he was no longer just a human consort. He was a symbol of hope for all races at the royal ceremony. Illyra placed a new crown on Jason's head. Together, she said, we will lead Velthor into a new era. Jason smiled, holding her hand. The sword Vigil was placed beside the throne, shining bright, but Jason kept the real sword close, just in case, said quietly. The galaxy had seen the rise of a simple man who was not simple at all. He was a warrior, a leader, in the heart of a new future. And the stars above whispered the legend of the Terran consort, the human who reached for his sword and changed the fate of an empire.